In what way do you confront your spirit on a daily basis?
It's the structure itself of this ministry. That's when they say we're going to cover a life, it's to cover it in every sense of the word. If it hadn't been for the body, wow, how much misfortune I would have caused myself.
I realized that what I was investing time in was something so false, and it wasn't going to lead me to eternity.
That's why dying is setting aside your will and taking on his purpose.
Aligned.
Roxannie Rodriguez,
Hello, Apostle. How are you?
it's good to have you with us.
I am truly happy to be here again this season.
That's great. And seeing you from New York now, we really have to take a closer look at you now.
Here we are, New York International.
That is truly great to hear. How tremendous to see how this ministry has absolutely no limits. We are everywhere and reaching people.
That is right, everywhere.
And you, who have had the experience of many places.
Yes. Back in the old studio, right where all of it started. Yes, and now.
Of course. And how long have you been in the ministry?
Well, I was baptized back in 2020. We are in 2026 now, so it has been 6 years here. Wow, 6 whole years.
Ah, but yours was in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes,
Wow, what an experience, huh?
yes, an experience that I could say has been the best thing that has happened to me because it's what has turned my life around completely. Completely.
And how exactly do you connect to this ministry?
You mean, how did I get here? Well, to be perfectly honest, I came to this ministry simply because I was specifically sent for. That's how I got here. I honestly didn't really have any prior knowledge of this ministry at all. And then you sent for me. I was truly just a person who had absolutely no knowledge of it. I didn't really know who God was or what he was about. I heard the word God, but I didn't know who God was. I didn't know him. And this is where I was introduced, where I was taught, where I was shown who God the Father is, and where my life began to make sense.
Well, you just touched on a topic that even I'm now a bit like, oh, wow, that's how she arrived. And it's true. And this is already a topic, as one would say, an experience. And it was that something told me that young lady, send for her without me knowing you. And a close person among us approached you. Look, my pastor wants to talk to you. And I sent for you. You were asking, saying, but what does he want to talk to me about?
Yes, it was honestly very intense and quite strange at the same time. I mean, back then, since I didn't really know anything, because I met you and you described me, completely, and you told me exactly who I was at that moment. And it was a matter of, hey, if I sent for you, but if that hadn't happened, they were going to GE. They were going to take you out. And it was exactly like that. I mean, when you told me you are this, you are a person who feels rejection, you are a person who doesn't know the value you have, that you were going to take your own life, I was like, who is he? How does he know all this?
Yes, it was intense. It was intense even for me because I didn't know what was going to happen. I just said, bring me this person. And there were several countries and places where they met with you, and it didn't happen until it finally did. And when that encounter happened, that's what took place. So it was very intense how you arrived. And I'm telling you, I asked you the question and I didn't remember how it was that you arrived. And it's true, they sent for you.
Yeah, sometimes one forgets because one connects to this ministry in so many different ways. But in my case, it was like that. I was sent for, and it was impressive because despite me not having the knowledge back then, everything you told me reached me. I mean, it made a lot of sense to me, a lot of sense, and that stayed in my spirit. And I would say that from that moment that I met you, my life began to be transformed.
What has been your experience being part of this apostolic ministry? What a thing.
In this ministry, an individual is carefully formed and shaped through the depth of the teachings provided. One is being structured and built up, and in that essential process, which every person must faithfully go through, one truly learns to know oneself on a deeper level. Through this journey, one eventually realizes what the marks are, understanding everything that operates within the spirit, and recognizing everything that opposes the path of growth. And despite me recognizing all that is in me that opposes the things of God the Father, my experience in this ministry has been the best. It's been the best thing that's happened to me because it's what gave me an identity. It's what taught me to know myself, to value myself, to know who Roxannie is, to see Roxannie for who God the Father intended her to be, and to dismantle so many lies, so much deception. And obviously, there's still so much more to go, but it's something that obviously I'm describing it, but you have to live it. You have to experience it to really understand it.
What were the first changes you noticed when you took on the apostolic structure?
The very first changes that I started to notice were when I began seeing how this entire world around us is actually just a carefully constructed lie. And once I peeled back those layers, I realized that nothing was quite what it seemed to be at first glance. That was something that, to me, it was like it impressed me. I mean, it shocked me, but at the same time, I said, but it just makes sense. The topic of principles, specifically how evil is overcome with good, how you have to bear fruit in order to be able to see real results, and how you have to conduct yourself from within the spiritual world to be able to truly experience the results that God the Father wants to provide to each one of his children. It is a profound journey. And personally, when I look back at those changes that I saw in myself, I mean, I really started to realize that I wasn't actually the person I always thought I was. It was a profound shift in the sense that I had always believed I was someone, a good woman, so to speak, just living my life in a general way. But this experience forced me to confront a much deeper and more complicated reality about who I truly am. And I wasn't a good person. I was a person who had a lot of hatred, a lot of resentment. I wanted to control everything. I wanted everything to be perfect. And I was someone who didn't model at all that daughter that God the Father wants me to be. I mean, those were like one of the little things, but there were so many things that progressively happened that to this day, it's like, I mean, the word is new every day. And every time you connect, you can start realizing how much you have to remove from yourself to let go of because you're not who you think you are. You are only what God the Father has created of his children, and you connect with that person through the word that you receive every day through this ministry. I'm very grateful.
You know, I always remember that every time you connected to a truth, you would come in uncomfortable. And why didn't I know this before? Because I would say to you, wait, no, why didn't I know this? And you would get upset.
It bothered you,
Yes.
like a wise woman.
And why didn't anyone teach me this? You'd say every time you connected to a teaching or a prophetic archive, you'd come away so impacted. I said, what is going on with her?
Yes, because it was like realizing how much the enemy had taken advantage of me, how much he had stolen from me. And you always told me, well, if it bothers you so much, then that should motivate you to keep connecting, to keep learning, to keep rooting out all the lies.
Of course. And what has been the most powerful thing about knowing who you are?
The most powerful and transformative thing about truly knowing who I am, for me personally, has been the realization that this self awareness doesn't just stay locked away inside or exist solely for my own comfort or to simply feel good about myself. Instead, I've come to understand that everything within me, every lesson I've learned, and every strength I've gained needs to expand, to multiply, and to bear real fruit so that I can actively reach out and go after others, sharing that same sense of purpose and clarity with them. And that tells me the great value I have. That it's not just Roxannie. I mean, it's multitudes.
Sure. I clearly remember that in a session about 4 years ago, you said, I'm liking the person I'm becoming.
100%. Of course.
That was very powerful, those words you said. I'm liking the person I'm becoming.
Yes, every day I rejoice more in knowing who I am, in accessing this truth, this word, in knowing, well, in having the identity of a father and seeing how wonderful, how God the Father made everything. But if you don't connect, if you don't access that word, if you don't let yourself be confronted, if you don't confess and stop, I mean, stop being that person you want to be so much, which in the end is a lie, there's no way you can rejoice and enjoy yourself and feel that fullness of, wow, I mean, in God the Father, there is no error, no error. And it impacts me a lot when I can see something new in me, when something is dismantled, when through the Spirit I can flow to be that person God the Father wants. Not because it pleases me or I like it, but because that is the person I should be through him. And it's like God the Father saying, you don't know anything. You don't know anything. Let yourself be guided. And it's very powerful and I love it. I love it.
How has your experience been dying to yourself and submitting your will?
Look, I was recently just sitting here thinking to myself for a while, and I said, wow, you really were a person with such a very strong character, very authoritarian, always wanting to control everything, just as I mentioned right at the very beginning. But of course, I always channeled that energy through my own ignorance, through a sense of independence. I mean, really in a very bad way, through poor management and honestly, just terrible administration. So I was saying, if you use everything you have for, that is, if you manage it all for the things of God the Father, how incredibly powerful that truly is. Because if you're attractive or if you're a brave person, then you have to be attractive and you have to be brave for what you really need to be. For what exactly? You need to be that way for a higher purpose. To face the enemy, for you to die to yourself, for you to die to your flesh. Because what's the point of wanting to hold back if in the end you're not doing what you're really supposed to, which is to connect with everything of God. So that has helped me to realize that okay, you have to die to yourself. It's certainly not easy, but I know you can do it. Because if you were strong enough for other things before, outside of this purpose, then why not do it now, even with what is truly a much greater dimension for the things of God?
What has it truly meant for you personally to have the support of the ministry?
Whew, really showing me that incredible value that God the Father has for me personally. I remember back in my early days when those teachings first began to be shared with me, that I would often just disappear. And they would always reach out and write to me, like, Roxannie, we're still here for you. Remember the teachings, the schedule, if there's any change. And I was surprised because I had never experienced that in my life. That someone would show me like that value, that love, that interest. I mean, the subject of the body is something impressive. It's something impressive that I value so much, and obviously it makes a lot of sense because one can't do it alone. Can't do it alone.
Which of the tools of the house brings the most confrontation to your life?
At this point in my life, I would honestly have to say all of them. They all minister to me in a unique way that really touches certain specific parts of my heart and soul. They really teach me something valuable, and right now it would be quite difficult to choose just one because I mean each one truly has its own unique dimension and perspective. But all of them confront me. Right now, all of them.
Can you describe the dimension of each one for you?
Yes. Well, looking back, those prophetic teas before were something that maybe I didn't fully value, so to speak. Because, being such a short video, I just didn't quite understand it at the time. I didn't really assimilate it well. But then, as my spirit was gradually awakening, I started to see things differently. And now, honestly, that is something that, I mean, it really impacts me so much more than I ever expected. I listened to the little T, and it's just a short 1 minute clip. But I'm really struck by the way that when I go to comment on it, I can just flow even more naturally than maybe if I were to listen to or comment on a prophetic word, so to speak. It's interesting because the little T is obviously something I listen to in the morning, and it's really like waking you up. You wake up, it's the very first bit of nourishment you receive, and it's honestly very powerful and grounding for the rest of the day. It really sets the tone for everything that follows. The prophetic word is something that one doesn't, of course, if you put it on to listen to it, which is an option, but usually I read it. So it's really like ministering to my spirit in a completely different way, in the sense that, okay, you might have already heard that word in the morning, but then your spirit truly needs to continue receiving that constant nourishment because there are just so many darts and everything that happens day to day, everything the enemy wants to try and carry out against you, that it's absolutely necessary for one to stay fully nourished. So I already talked about the prophetic word. The archives are something truly impressive that I myself have really struggled with, just trying to take it all in. There is just so much substance in them. It's honestly incredible. The archives come to dismantle. The archives to me, they wow. It's something that, like you were saying earlier, when I hear or connect with a truth that I say, my God, but why didn't I know that? How did I not connect with that before? Why did nobody tell me? That happens to me with the prophetic archives. With the grounded ones, it's something impressive because many times one forgets that one has many things similar to others, to the other members, to the other brothers. And then there's the part of how one can really feel, wow, we have so many things in common, and one just doesn't feel alone anymore. But also, one gets to know them, know their unique experiences, and from those experiences, one learns so much from them. One is truly ministered to in the process. Listening to these podcasts is truly something impressive because each guest shares their unique journey entirely from their own perspective. They really open up about their life from such a deeply personal side, which helps you connect with their story in a way that feels authentic. But then the apostle comes along to further develop and explain what one perhaps doesn't quite have the level to explain on their own. It really is a process of opening up one's understanding even more. And the teaching is very, very, very great and powerful.
Wow, magnificent the way you describe it. And it's very exact, it's very clear. That whole menu, that buffet of the house is so that no entertainment comes to distract you from God's purpose. And how good that you, who used to be called the youngest, not anymore, now you're a veteran woman in this ministry. And it shows by the authority that emanates today. You're actually even one of the people that many of us really follow in the prophetic flow whenever you comment. Because when you do comment, One really has to sit down to take the time to read the whole list that you send.
Oh, yes, that actually is right.
And we truly enjoy it very much. It is so powerful because it is a genuine awakening. You know, I was thinking, and since you mentioned it today in the introduction, you were sought out because you were in a dungeon where it could have been your very last connection to life. And look at how God sought his daughter so that now she begins to flow prophetically and so that you can help others. And how truly powerful that is. It is just incredible to witness.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and it leads me to what is taught here, which is obeying. Because I know that when you sent for me, it was for that, for obedience. And as explained, had you not done it, well, the story would have been different. I wouldn't be here.
Of course, how do you manage to stay aligned with the prophetic schedule of the house?
Well, by connecting with each piece of nourishment. Each and every day brings its own unique set of troubles, and as we've all been taught, you really have to take it just one day at a time. There is plenty of content here, plenty of spiritual nourishment, and plenty of the word, but often one mismanages themselves by wanting to do too much, and they end up getting completely overwhelmed. It's really just so many things. No, you have to do what's right for the moment, one day at a time, and that way everything will eventually fall into place. Because one needs to stay nourished, and one truly needs to keep their spirit awake. I mean, one is here in the way in which one faces the day to day. It really has to start from the spiritual part, because if one doesn't have an awake spirit, the enemy the enemy takes advantage. The enemy takes advantage, and that's exactly what he's done with each one of us long before one had this knowledge. So, what really helps me is my ministry, which provides me with all the tools that I need on a daily basis.
There is a question that has been on my mind, and what exactly was it that happened with you coming from the world of the runway and modeling? What was that crossover like? Going from the runways, from modeling, to being a prophet working for the ministry? How did that crossover happen?
Well, the crossover happened, first of all, when I was actually sent for. Then really connecting with the teachings, letting myself be fully formed, and just letting myself be taught. I remember that from the very first study that was given to me. I just sat there and said, wow, like, where have I even been all this time? Because the spiritual world it really is what is truly real. It is the absolute truth. And it is the place where everything we know actually starts from. And as I truly began to know myself, it felt just like cutting off tentacles one by one, cutting off those heavy tentacles. Cutting off all those tentacles. As I connected more deeply and as my spirit truly awakened, it was like finally connecting with that person that God the Father intended for me to be. I was detaching myself from the person I once was because I had been influenced by so many different confusing ways. It happened because the enemy took advantage of me because I did not have the knowledge and because I did not have an identity. I simply did not know who I was. And it was like pleasing the world, pleasing my family, pleasing society, pleasing my soul. So when I finally met that person of the spirit, it was like, okay, now this really makes sense to me. And honestly, now I feel like that is truly the person I was always supposed to be. But it is something that, as I said at the beginning, again, you have to experience it to understand it because each person has a personal relationship with the person of the spirit. And when you learn to have that relationship, the spirit is your friend, the spirit speaks to you, accompanies you, directs you, guides you, and I felt supported at all times, where the spirit to me was like, I truly felt protected from I started to feel deeply protected from that entire world that was previously taking advantage of me. And the crossover was, well, I mean, it is something that happens on a daily basis. But truly, it was the profound experience of meeting the person of the Spirit and finally letting myself be guided by that presence. It was about knowing myself for real and intentionally detaching myself from that deep seated lie that simply was not who I am.
What things have you had to give up to see the kingdom fully within you?
Everything that was implanted in me outside of this core knowledge, everything that was deeply instilled in me outside of the fundamental truths, and everything I once associated with my own identity, that person that I used to be, that version of myself that I thought I knew so well, all of that is fading away. That person that I was creating of myself or that I longed to be, that I dreamed of being, who in the end was nobody. Truly was nobody. I mean, I appeared to be someone, but I wasn't. I mean, it really was a lot to process. There was just so much overwhelming emptiness, so much deep, heavy depression, and honestly, so many lingering questions and constant doubts weighing on my mind. But then, coming here, it felt like every single one of them was finally answered for me.
What is it that you've enjoyed the most about being able to serve others?
What I have truly enjoyed the most about being able to serve another person is the profound way I see it and deeply feel it when I am serving them. It really becomes a beautiful expression of reflecting all the love, grace, and abundance that God the Father has so generously given to me. It is not just an action, but a way to share that divine light. And in that moment of service, I feel a powerful connection that reminds me of everything I have been blessed with in my own life.
What are you grateful for to this ministry?
I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful to the ministry for existing. I am deeply grateful to the ministry, and I want to emphasize how much it means that they have never stopped their work. They have consistently continued their mission, truly taking to heart that foundational word established in the Manual of Life. Their commitment to go out and reach the children, to actively form them, and to provide the structure they need to grow is inspiring. And I say this with conviction because I am a living product of that very dedication.
Rosanna Rodriguez, I hope this happens again.
Me too, Apostle. Thank you very much.